In a mostly happy conversation with Roger Craig on Tuesday, the former 49ers running back broke down just once. His voice caught when he tried to recount the day Dwight Clark revealed his diagnosis of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Craig didn't get far when Dwight called and told me. "It hurt me. It hurt so much," Craig said, fighting through sobs. The line went silent for a while. "I loved him so much," Craig finally said. "He's so real. He's the realest person I've ever known." Clark was a real person who lived a football fairy tale. And part of the reason the Bay Area's heart broke Monday, when Clark died at 61, was because they'd lost a friend, whether they'd actually met him or not. Part of Clark's mammoth charm was that the man who made the most famous catch in NFL history acted as if it were somehow all an accident. Clark carried himself like a lottery winner who wanted to share the pot with anyone he met. "He just brought something special to everyone's life," Craig said. Craig, like so many 49ers teammates, treasures the series of intimate lunches and reunions Clark held as ALS took him into life's 2-minute drill. Craig isn't even sure there will be a memorial service. "People who loved him have already said goodbye, face to face. I teared up big time," Craig said, "but we smiled, too. All I cared about was seeing that smile one more time. I attended one of those mesmerizing lunches, too, in January, where I played the indispensable role of keeping my mouth shut and laughing a lot. What struck me most during those 2 hours was how Clark, one of the greatest receivers in 49ers history, made it sound as if his whole career had simply been a series of fortunate events." 49ers legend Dwight Clark posing with media members. From left, standing, are Loa Cohn, Mark Purdy, Matt Mayoko, Sam Farmer, Daniel Brown, Scott Osler, Paul McCaffrey, Kirk Reynolds and Fred Formosa. Kneeling next to Clark are John Failer, left, and Brian Murphy. After all, his journey with the 49ers began with a lucky phone call. "I was going out the door to play golf, and the phone rang," Clark said. "It was Bill Walsh, in town to work out Clemson quarterback Steve Fuller. Could Clark come catch a few passes?" By the time that session was over, Walsh had no use for Fuller but was enamored by the sturdy receiver with magnetic hands. "When I had that workout, I had freaking God on my shoulder," Clark said. "I caught everything." Clark spent most of his early 49ers career having no idea where he stood. He was so sure that he was going to be cut in training camp that he kept his bags packed, just in case. Walsh loved him and had no plans of cutting him. But he never told Clark that. Instead, the receiver recalled, "He'd ride my ass. That very first camp, we were passing in the hallway one time, and Bill said, 'Clark, you're kind of fading on me out there,' he said. I packed all my stuff and thought, 'Damn, I'm going home tomorrow.'" Even when the 49ers cut the roster down to 5 receivers, and Clark sensed he might actually make the team as a rookie in 1979, he still kept his emotional guard up. Clark made sure his father was in Minnesota for an away game against the Vikings, if only to see his son play a few special teams snaps. "So he comes to Minnesota, where we're sitting in whatever hotel," Clark recalled, "and I said, 'Can you believe this, I'm going to play in a pro football game tomorrow.'" To his dying day, Clark never lost that sense of wonder. Nobody who ever met him will, either. Because long after retirement, Clark welcomed anyone who shared in his ridiculous ride. He was open to anyone who approached him. It's just that his welcome mat happened to be a magic carpet. There was the time at an autograph show in New Jersey years ago, when the 49ers legend looked out into the long line and spotted a kid in a wheelchair. Fans meet San Francisco 49ers legend Dwight Clark at Saramonte Shopping Center in Daly City, California, on Saturday, April 5, 2014. John Green, Bay Area News Group, "He had a lot of things wrong with him, but he was decked out in all his 49ers stuff," Clark said during that January lunch. "So, I was trying my best to think of something special. By the time the kid got to front of the line, Clark had it figured out. He'd remembered how touched he was when Walsh gave him a lithograph of the catch, and added a hand-drawn diagram of the play design, sprint right option. So Clark did the same for the kid in the wheelchair, drawing up the X's and O's before signing his name. Clark laughed that even the play design was a lucky break, he could sketch it out fairly quickly. Good luck trying that, Franco Harris. The Immaculate Reception? That's too long, Clark said. Drawing the play became a staple of his autograph shows. He encouraged Montana to do it too, but that was the one area where Joe Cool lacked artistry. Chicken scratch, Clark said. It is the worst drawing ever. The story of the child in the wheelchair is essentially the plot line of every Clark story I've heard since his passing. Act 1. Fans approach him eagerly. Act 2. Clark serves up an extra helping of kindness. Act 3. Well, there's a twist every time. On Tuesday, with the emotions still fresh, I asked fans through social media for tales of their encounters with Clark. There was the time Scott Brown of Carmel Valley, who emailed me about attending a celebrity golf tournament hoping to get a few notable names to play along with a video tribute for his friend's wedding. Brown wanted celebs to pretend that they were old pals with the groom as part of a mockumentary. Brown approached celebrity after celebrity and got no. And then Clark went far beyond yes. He looked at me, grinned and said, "That's a great idea. What's your buddy's name?" Brown wrote. The groom's name was Matt, so Clark broke into an extended routine about the great times he and Matt had in their younger days. Then he looked right in the camera, winked, and said, "Congratulations, Matt. I hope your catch is as good as mine." There was the time Jeff Schnitzer planned to attend Clark's autograph appearance in New Jersey. But something else came up. Namely, his wife gave birth to a baby boy. Schnitzer's friend attended the show anyway and explained the situation to Clark. And Dwight recorded a video congratulating me on my son being born and thanking me for being a fan, Schnitzer wrote. There was the time Joe Dwight Ferris was born. That was in March of 1982, so it's not tough to figure out where his name came from. He says now that name was actually supposed to be Joseph Dwight, as in Montana, Clark and Dwight Hicks, but the person filling out the birth certificate made an accidental roster cut. Ferris had a chance meeting with Montana once, and the quarterback signed a football with a classic inscription, "To Joe Dwight, great name, Joe Montana." Roger Craig, left, and Dwight Clark wait their turn to get the ball during practice for Legends of Candlestick at Candlestick Park in San Francisco, California, on Friday, July 11, 2014. Former 49ers will play a team of former NFL All-Stars in a game of flag football on Saturday, July 12, 2014. It is being billed as the last football game ever at Candlestick Park. Gensheimer, Bay Area News Group, later, when Ferris heard Clark was appearing at a golf tournament, Ferris made sure to get there and catch up with him between holes. He had the Montana ball in one hand and his driver's license in the other, just for proof of his name. He gave me a huge hug and said this was the second best namesake story he has ever heard. Ferris wrote Tuesday. He wanted a photo of the license and I got his email. He said to follow him to his next shot and he would happily take a picture. I met up with him and took a picture and he signed my ball. An unbelievable moment for a guy like me, living with a name like mine. As a side note, Clark said that to know. One namesake story was about a child named Dwight Clark born on Jan. 10, 1982, the same birth date as the 49ers dynasty. There was the time kid from Santa Teresa High exploded in joy when Montana threw the ball and Clark plucked it from the clouds. That kid, Howard Beck, read the vivid accounts of the NFC Championship game in the newspaper the next day and decided, on the spot, that he wanted to be a sports writer. That kid later hired me to the staff of our college newspaper job. 30-plus years later we are here together, in Cleveland, to cover the Warriors-Cavaliers series. Yet another happy accident that can be traced back to Clark's fingertips. In this basketball-mad town, we will raise a glass to the catch tonight. Here's to Dwight Clark, the realest person I've ever known. I'm unspeakably sad about this. Never did meet Dwight, unfortunately, but he's a huge reason I'm doing what I'm doing. The catch was the most exciting sports moment of my youth. It put me on this path. Forever grateful to Dwight and at Joe Montana for that inspiration.